Looking at an article I read recently, you said that just from a purely organiser's point of view, a fallow year is not necessarily a wasted year.
No, so obviously when the TT was cancelled, I, like everybody else, was disappointed that the event wouldn't be taking place this year. And once a few weeks passed, I begun to realise that this was a real opportunity to do some work that we've always wanted to do, but really weren't getting the chance to either do to the level that we would like to do it or do it at all. And we've
sort of like what sort of work?
Real sort of research, evaluation, and future planning. It's all quite dull and boring actually for your listeners probably, but I'm talking strategy and marketing and reviewing kind of the policies that sit around what we do and really questioning everything. And it's turned into, from my perspective, my view of this is that this could be a gift actually to, in some respects, that we be able to ensure, to really kind of start putting in place some plans for a better future for the events, which we may or may not have been able to do to this level without a year off event delivery. And we've done some of the best quality work that I think we've been involved in since certainly since I've been around it, and we're coming towards the end of that process at the moment. So we've been at that for about 4 months, and like you said there, we don't know what the future holds. Nobody does, and it's not it's not fair for anyone to try and guess really at the moment, because I said to somebody yesterday, you think back to the start of March, it would have been almost unfathomable that we'd cancel a TT at the start of March. By the middle of March we'd cancelled it, and by the end of March we were queuing to buy toilet paper. The world has changed so quickly every week. But what I think we're going to do with this piece of work, and what we are doing, is make sure that when the lights go green again, that the TT is as best prepared as it possibly can be to come back as strong as it possibly can be, and that's the most responsible thing that we as the promoters of it can do. And the idea of why this the year away from that is important is because it actually might, we've got the short-term pain, but it might turn into sort of better long-term security.
Looking at the future, how concerned are you by the economic maelstrom that's likely to follow this pandemic, or be part of an ongoing pandemic more likely?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is going to be the same almost to every question here. There's much bigger things at play, but for our world, obviously there's going to be pressure for in the sporting sense around sponsorship, not just in our sport, in all sports.
And that's sponsorship of the event as well as sponsorship for riders.
Yeah, although I must say, we've been doing work with our sponsors, and we whether it's luck or what, I don't know, but the people who sponsor the TT currently, who are all in multiple year contracts, are in good shape. We spent a lot of time talking to them about where they go with us in the future, and they've been able to review how they use their sponsorship of the TT and found some interesting ideas. We've done quite a lot with our sponsors during the downtime. So that I'm in short term anyway, I'm less concerned about that, obviously. But from a sporting perspective, the pressure on budgets, but with all sports will recalibrate at the back of this. All sports will become more leaner and meaner, I'm sure, and we're seeing it now. We're already seeing it. If we think at the very top of motorsport, we see the massive changes that are coming in F1. Well, I think we can probably see that sort of in different to different levels happening right throughout all sports, really.
How fearful are you about the infrastructure, and I mean that in its broadest sense, on the Isle of Man, the hospitality sector, the caterers, the businesses that the TT is so wrapped up in? How fearful are you that many of them might not survive this?
Yeah, I think I have to say that I am not as close to that as other colleagues of mine throughout the Department for Enterprise, but you're right, it is a concern for everybody, and again, it's not just a concern for the TT. We need those businesses there to be there all the time. There's the visit agency have got ambitious plans for tourism on the Isle of Man, which span far further than any of the motorsports events, and that infrastructure is critical to that, but it's also critical to the other sectors. So it's going to be an interesting few months ahead, I'm sure. And whenever I speak to somebody like yourself, you ask fair and reasonable questions, but all of which require a crystal ball to answer.
Yeah. Is there, or are there rather, plans that if we're coming out of, say, the pandemic, or we're having to learn to live with COVID-19, can the TT be COVID-19 secure?
The answer to your question is there are no plans. The other part to that question is that there is work ongoing to understand as many of the different sort of foreseeable ramifications for whatever scenarios we could possibly expect in 2021. So we've been speaking to the broadest range of stakeholders in the TT we've ever spoken to in depth over a number of months, and they're the sort of questions we've been asking and trying to evidence, and hopefully to put in a book that we never pick up. But it's important that the key word in all this is preparation. So it's to be as well prepared as possible for whatever it looks like when it all comes back to life. And I don't just mean the TT with that, but from my perspective, obviously it's very much focused on the TT to make sure that it comes back swinging and as strong as is possible by having carried out as much detailed preparation as possible.
And just finally, have you been looking at other sports as they've come back as to how they've been able to come back? Some have been in a secure bubble.
Yeah. So I think the next few months with other sports are going to tell us a lot about the medium-term future, about what is going to be possible.
It's almost inconceivable to have a TT without spectators, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And since the pandemic hit, I've probably never paid as much attention to other sports as I have done in terms of under the surface. Really, I've read a lot more than ever before about sport organisation and sport business and just trying to follow this really quickly changing landscape. And the same thing throughout. Nobody knows really where they're going with it, and things keep changing. And I think the kind of perception of when normal will come back and what normal will be like changes all the time. But and also we're starting to see, I don't know what you think or your listeners think, but I've caught some football since it came back, and it's a really different, it's a short-term product like that without fans. It's really, it's just not.
It's not financially viable.
Not financially viable. Doesn't have the same appeal.
It's sanitized.
Yeah, and this is one of these the big sort of one of the sectors with the big question mark in all of this is the live events sector. You think music festivals. You're looking at theatres, cinema, all this kind of that entertainment sector is it's really worrying times for it. But like I said, with the TT, I'm confident that everybody in the Isle of Man wants the TT to take place next year. It's traditional times, and there's nothing right this second that says that can't happen. And we're going to work really hard to make sure it's the best one that we could possibly deliver, and it's the best prepared for those conditions. But there are bigger issues at play, and all of us have to wait and see how they unfold.